And welcome back to the LEC, where G2 find themselves victorious against Heretics, continuing their undefeated streak. And here, guys, I want us to talk about G2 as a whole. They won Winter, they're heading to MSI, we know this, but let's take a look at the game they played against Heretics now. Do we think they're playing on a high level enough? Yes and no. Let's talk about the early game, maybe?
Yeah, personally, I don't think they are.
Okay.
Like, let's be real, even when we look back at Winter, this wasn't a team that was the most consistent when it came to the early games. It was more about how they can play through mid side lanes, they can set themselves up well, but when it came to the early games, it's a big issue, and Broxah, we saw this here today as well.
So, we need to look at this.
Okay.
Jankos gets pushed out of his top side. He naturally goes bot side. He has one place to go. It is bot lane. What does G2's bot lane do? They freaking dive him. They dive them 2v2 with a jungler moving there. Like, this is a solo queue moment if I've ever seen one. Like, I've been in this situation, being the Jarvan. I'm like, spam pinging bot lane, back.
Yeah.
What do? They dive. They're probably spam pinging Yike on top of it, like jungle gap. It's disgusting. Why do you dive that?
There's so many times we see the exact same thing from G2, right? You see it in mid lane where they spot Jankos in mid lane. They're like, we're going to go for the play anyway. When we look back at Winter, there was, hey, Yike is on Void Grubs. And then Hansam and Mickey are like, this seems like the best time to go for a 2v2 on bot, and then they end up dying, or jungle comes down and they end up picking them off. It's consistently where they are overextending and not respecting their enemy team, and it's catching them out on multiple occasions. And now if you look at an MSI or an international, this is where you are going to fall flat. You cannot give advantages like this to a top LPR or a top LCK team.
I love your approach, guys, because I feel like it's easy praising a winning teams, but showing what they're doing wrong is actually going to be important here, especially with MSI on the line. Let's look at the second replay, maybe. We're talking about the mid lane this time.
Yeah, I think it's funny though, because if you look at G2 in Europe, they're so good. But if you look at them internationally with the way they're playing in Europe, you know this meme with the dog inside the burning building saying it's fine?
This is fine,
That's
guys.
basically me as an EU fan going into MSI. Like, I don't really know if it's fine at this point.
Yeah, and you have every reason to be worried, I feel.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest thing is that we get to see, hey, their mid game is still pretty strong, right?
Yeah.
And this is where they're able to find those moments where they can have these big team fight comes back. But even here, right, like overextending on the team fight here, giving that opportunity for Heretics to try and come back. But oftentimes it ends up falling to someone like Caps to try and bring these moments back and those individual performers to step it up. And I think Caps has been someone where they are giving a lot of space on side lanes too. So it's like, hey, when you're on Azir, we're going to put you in a side lane, you're going to scale up when we're behind and become that big team fight threat. Here on the Ahri, he's pressuring towers. And I think teams don't know how to deal with this side lane pressure from G2 and end up crumbling as a result to then G2 in the mid game.
So normally when you do Baron, you kind of want to pull the enemy team close into you and then turn when you have a really good angle. Here, G2 turned way too early, and because the opponent's name is Heretics and not one of the top LPL and LCK team, no offense to Heretics, it could be any other EU team. Heretics didn't ace them. What I'm trying to say is that turn was terrible, and it's unbelievable that they won the game off of it. They shouldn't get away with these type of things, and it brings me pain. Somebody has to give them a reality check.
And I do think it's fair. I do love the entire bashing of the region, by the way. I think it was amazing. But do you think, I mean, what do you attribute this to? Because I don't believe in a lack of skills or in a lack of discipline when it comes to G2.
You don't?
Where do these mistakes come from? Yeah?
I think what we're seeing in Europe is G2 dunking on their opponents individually. If you take a player like Caps or Broken Blade that does really well within Europe against every solo lane in the league, and you put them at MSI where they can no longer get those big advantages in their solo lanes and where they have to win off of good macro and rotations and decision making, that becomes a problem because you're used to always winning lane, always have that fallback plan, and if you no longer have that, everything just falls apart.
I do have a question about the whole G2 philosophy and how they're going to approach MSI. But before that, praise to Caps, key player of the game. Once again, he has been this consistent clutch factor for G2.
And I think that's where you can actually have a lot of praise for G2. Because when it does get to internationals, it looks like Caps is back. It feels like he's the guy that they're going to be able to focus on to say, hey, when we need you to step up, you are there. And I think it is a lot of the resources that are going towards him in the mid game to say, hey, put on your carry pants, mate. We need you to step up. The problem is, though, when you end up in a situation where you are falling behind, you're not going to have as much space in an international competition to give to Caps, and that's where G2, I think, are going to stumble as they start to move forward. But, I mean, look, it feels like they are trying to change their philosophy behind the scenes, but it just feels like we haven't seen that result on stage.
4 weeks to go for them to get their things together. Broxah, what do you want to see first on G2's improvements before moving on?
I want to see less talk, more doing.
Let's talk more.
They've talked a lot about how they're improving and working on these things. I've seen literally none of it. I'm being harsh. I'm being very harsh.
And you
but
should.
I think
an
it's
EU
true.
fan,
As you should.
Yeah.
I care. I want them to do well. And if this is the best team that we're going to send to MSI, I'm sorry, but it's going to be a quick one.
Carrying the frustration of the entire region. We'll follow up this talk later, but first things first, let's toss it back to Caster for Game 4.
Build up into MDK versus Vitality.
Hello.
Yeah.
We're here to calm the scene after Broxah's
We're here to
beatdown.
calm the scene?
Yeah, I mean,
I think we should get more animated.
I mean, Broxah just
80 carries are
eviscerated
entitled,
G2.
Yumi is dumb, Smolder is broken, supports Roam too much.
All of those things are factually correct. So, welcome. We're getting ready. for
Milky Way's
MDK
gonna
versus-
smash us, guys. You could just send him and we'd lose.
Okay, well, let's calm down. Okay, right? We still have another game to
Guy's
get
named
through.
after a candy bar, for goodness sake.
He could also be named after, you know, the name of our solar system.
That was named after the candy bar, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's like the orange situation, you know.
I
Anyway,
see.
Mad Lions Koi versus Vitality. Mad Lions Koi 1-2 in week 1. Disappointing for them after making finals in winter. Vitality overperforming compared to expectations, I would say, although VIT, before we came onto the cast, did very rightly point out they had a relatively easy week 1.
I mean, relative being, of course, the key word there. MDK, though, losing to Giant X, I think was a big surprise to many. Last week, they did have a really strong start with the Volley Bear, and then they ended up just faltering in the late game. They made a few too many mistakes, and we know that the coach was not happy about that. So let's see that discipline come through from Mad Lions Koi. Mrywn gonna lock in the Varus for Supa, and Carzzy's going to respond with the Senna. Pretty much the only AD carry that we've seen him play outside of Smolder so far this split. AD carries kind of staying to their tried and true priorities. What will the follow-up here be? Will it be... We've seen Taliyah kind of shifted away in terms of priorities so far in the current patch. The Nautilus naturally going to be locked in here. Now, will we see something like the Renata come out from Alvaro? Will we see something a little more defensive? Do they instead want to lock in? Oh, okay, well, it looks like we're going to see the same draft that we see almost every game. Rell locked in. Will it perhaps be an Orianna?
It's a possibility, Betty.
Possibility.
I'm going to put it out there. Very likely we see Rell Orianna here from Mad Lions Koi. Could go towards support as well, just to make sure that isn't too pinched, but obviously
Braun,
the Rell's still
Alistair,
flexible.
Renata, all fine.
I wouldn't mind. Like Braun Rell feels pretty strong. The melee synergy with
They also don't have to lock in support here. They can keep the flex available on the Rell, of course. Maybe they just want to lock in mids, like Taliyah, Ahri, both still up. Orianna as well. We did mention it earlier.
I like the mid. I think picking mid here does give Vitality the option to answer on 3. There's the Orianna. Will Vetheo look to something like his Akali that he first made his name on Misfits all those years ago?
Instead, very likely to lock in jungle here. Maybe we see something like a Maokai. Maybe they want to... I don't love Maokai. I'd prefer something a little more aggressive here. Something like the Xin Zhao, I think, could be really good. Jax,
Shaco.
Another great option, I think. If they do decide to... Did you say Shaco?
He said aggressive, man. 100 Thieves played it. It must be good.
Okay, but no, it wasn't that good. Okay,
They still won the game,
They did
Betty.
win the game. Shaco was not the reason they won that game. The beauty of Jax is you also have the flexibility to put it both top and jungle. Great carry jungler. Often pairs up very nicely with things like the Karma. We saw them earlier.
We did.
I think that things like Nico are also fine pairing up with a Jax, just because he does have so much damage. Utility mids pair up a little nicer with him.
Gragas ban against Fresskowy. Oh no, it's not against Fresskowy because he's already locked in Orianna, so likely...
But nice throwback to the playoffs last split, where he did have
like
a great
last year at times,
where he did have a great Gragas performance. Twisted Fate going to be taken away, we imagine, from Photon. So far, Photon has only played carries. Okay,
Yes, and I like it.
Boulder top, Rumble
Didn't like
top,
that one. Rumble I did
TF
enjoy.
top.
Rumble, there's an angle here as well. If you want to lock Rumble into the top lane. Twisted Fate banned away by MDK. Vitality...
Actually, I changed my mind. No, I don't think Rumble is the angle.
There is an angle. It's not a good one, but it exists.
Vitality banned... Okay,
Against
so
Mrywn,
Vitality banning Akali heavily suggests to me that this is Photon's Jax.
Yep.
Gragas, Akali, both really good into Jax. The thing they may have forgotten Mrywn is a top lane Varus player. Not that I think that Varus is good into Jax. I think he's just great into AD carry top laners. But we'll have to wait and see. Malphite being banned suggests that Mad Lions Koi is still worried about that Jax potentially going into the jungle. I feel pretty confident that it is a top lane Jax, but they can pivot.
And the good thing for Vitality is they can wait to the last pick to decide if they have to pivot. They may have already decided, obviously. The Jayce being hovered here for Mad Lions Koi gives away the fact that's likely not a top lane Varus. Not that either of us really expected it too much.
A great Jayce play last in winter. I keep saying last year.
Last split.
In winter. There were games where he was falling behind. I think his worst game was one against Broken Blade, where he was like 4 levels down. But aside from that, even when he was at deficits, he found ways to have massive impact on the champion. I do think that he is a great performer on it. Happy to see him on it once more. We'll see how they round out this draft. Where is the Rell going? Is it support Rell or is it jungle? My expectation is it's jungle, and they're going to lock in something now for support. I don't know if... Oh, I stand corrected.
I mean, it could be Jarvan support.
It could be.
It was a thing for that short period of time.
I will say, I don't love Jarvan into Ahri Jax.
Yeah.
Like, we think back to last game, it was Jarvan into Varus, Orianna. No mobility. When the flashes are gone, Jarvan has a great time.
Yep.
Ahri has 3 dashes. Jax has a dash on his Q. Like, I feel like that there's a lot of mobility. Sure, blocking down Senna, there's definitely an option there. Wukong going to be the final pick here for Photon. I assume this is top lane.
It could be, but you can play Wukong jungle
You
still.
definitely can, that's very
buffs,
true.
right?
The buffs are actually tailored more towards his top side,
It was,
right?
yeah.
And giving him a little bit more armor, I think, makes him a pretty good matchup into the Jayce. Admittedly, I don't have a huge amount of experience in this one, so we'll see how this one pans out. I imagine early, Jayce should have the priority, but as the laning phase goes on, once Wukong gets 6, generally is when you expect him to have kill pressure. But you look at this mid-jungle duo, I think that Jarvan Orianna has great wombo combo, a lot of CC, a lot of team fight threats, but I think that Ahri Jax just has a lot of great setup, a lot of kill potential, a lot of strong skirmishing in the early, especially if this Nautilus gets involved, and then the Senna is going to be just that late game scaling insurance, with Wukong also offering just a lot of backline threat onto low mobility carries. Orianna, Varus, similar to what we saw last game, Wukong can have a field day, and I don't think he'll have that much difficulty actually gaining access onto the backline.
It's also about separating the team. If we do see the engage coming out from MDK with the Jarvan going in, with the Rell going in, Wukong can then just distract Varus, Orianna, and Jayce for long enough that Jarvan and Rell are dead. And then it's a front to back for Vitality. We'll get on into the game. Vitality sitting 2-1, MDK sitting at 1-2. Almost halfway through the split. In fact, tomorrow will be our halfway mark. That's right,
of the regular season.
Yeah, of the regular season, sorry.
We will still then have 4 weeks left.
Or is it 3?
No, because this is week 2, and there are 6 weeks per split.
Yes.
3 regular season, 3 playoffs.
Okay.
That's right, medic.
Oh, hook. Fresskowy, there's nowhere for him to go. Doesn't burn the flash wisely, but falls for it. Carzzy gets a stack. 2 of them, in fact.
Okay, why are you enthusiastic about
Senna, Betty?
Jax just got 400 gold, medic.
Senna is more important.
I mean, this is a great start for Vitality.
He's going to do it again.
Watch me do it again.
I understand this from Hylissang. What you want to do is make sure you get control of these top bushes. He misses the dredge line, not on purpose, but it doesn't actually matter.
They're going to last hit that ward.
Clear out the ward. Photon takes it. It means that Jayce doesn't have as easy a time trading with the Wukong, because what you usually want to do is have this ward in the mid bush, get another ward either in the closer bush, and it means the Wukong can't just dash in and out of the bushes to CS, and you can just auto attack him down. But Jayce here won't have that luxury in the top lane.
Let's see how things pan out in that top lane matchup. Longsword going to be picked up for Daglas. Naturally, a great start for him. No summoner spells used in that exchange. That's not a bug, right? Hilly has TP?
Yeah, Hilly has TP. Actually quite common in the Senna matchups. You remember Tom Kench with TP?
No,
we saw a ton.
That's not the surprise. It's more about Hilly not taking a kill summoner. You know what I mean? Like, I think of Hilly, I think of I'm here to kill.
I mean, I agree with that, but he can be everywhere to kill with TP.
That's true.
You said you wanted him to be involved in the mid lane as Mrywn trades with Photon in the top side. Imagine if that bush was warded. It'd be a lot harder for Photon to escape.
That's a great point.
We saw a little bit of trading
the race
on the
for level 2
well.
is very important in this top matchup. As the level 2 secured for Photon. Q.
Mrywn has to back away.
Ooh, the tower. Ooh, it's tense. He could get the level up off. Yep. All right. Photon is playing on a knife's edge right now. Junglers are looking at this top lane and thinking, that is some tasty treats right now.
Yeah, the wave is not nice for Photon either. Reinforcements will arrive from Mryn's side, but I think that's going to keep pushing towards MDK's tower.
Correct.
Hylissang and Carzzy, because they were late to the lane, because Hylissang went top lane, weren't able to get prio, so Alvaro and Supa just get the level 2. Hylissang will be farming in this lane as well, because it's support item Senna.
Yep. Kind of as we expected. And as, you know, we didn't conclude the point, but as you rightly said, it makes sense to run that TP on champions that are getting a few more resources. Hilly with a great week 1 overall.
Yeah.
I think that he did have a difficult winter split, but it really felt like that he was focused on the ball. He was very involved in making plays for his team throughout week 1, and Nautilus was the champion that he was finding so much success on, and you love to see it. We know we have a lot of Hilly fans in Europe, and that's the beauty of Hilly, right? If you're a true Hilly fan, you know that he has those highs and lows.
Yeah.
And even after the lows, you know that he's going to come back to those highs, and it seems that we are definitely in a high point for Hilly right now.
I will say, the winter low was a low that we haven't seen the depths of for a while with Hylissang. Usually it's like, oh, he has a low part of a game or a low few games. Winter was a low. That was Mariana Trench.
It was a rough split for Vitality as a whole as well.
So
you know?
I don't have a problem with
like,
people doubting Hylissang's form after winter is kind of what I'm saying.
For sure. Yeah. But I definitely think that he's earned... he's the pedigree of player that you just kind of have to have trust in that he'll find a way to bounce back because he's done it consistently throughout his career. I need to double check if it's still true that he hasn't missed the playoffs. Obviously, it's a little bit easier for us now because top 8 secure playoffs.
Yeah,
but
I think it is true because I checked it in 2023 summer, and then they made playoffs last split as well, right?
Yeah.
So.
In any case, enough about Hilly. Right now, he's continuing to farm on the bot side of the map. Obviously, a slight disadvantage with Varus getting that CS lead for now, but that's nothing too significant. Overall, gold lead in favor of Vitality. Top side of the map kind of going as we expected. Small gold lead for Mryn for now. Wukong being that melee champion will struggle. Once he gets level 6, he'll unlock a little bit more kill potential, in which case you'll see him start to have a little bit more threat in this lane. Meanwhile, mid staying very even as we expect. Orianna in the early laning phase does have the ability to get favorable trades against Ahri, just because it's so much easier to control the ball and get nice trades. But outside of that, things just kind of, I mean, that's a great example. Thank you, Fresskowy, for demonstrating for our audience.
And Fresskowy able to get a recall off without having to expend his TP, which Vetheo wasn't able to manage. So there is a slight teleport advantage in that mid lane for Fresskowy. We obviously need to wait 10 minutes before it's unleashed. There's the charm. Daglas coming in from the side here as well. Will Fresskowy overstep? Vetheo almost down below 100 HP. Daglas waiting on the counter-strike and with no vision in that bush, doesn't want to step any further!
I was just about to say, Daglas needs to help him push this wave out. That Vetheo was way too low to stick around, and Fresskowy gets a great punish. Really good understanding of how much damage he had and how much health Vetheo had. That's a kill over to Fresskowy.
And a VT no for Vitality, as Vetheo without TP will lose out on at least a couple of these minions. Daglas tracking Elyoya down towards this bottom lane. Waves stacked in favor of MDK, so we'll slowly push up. Elyoya probably just covering this in case Daglas does look for something. Alvaro goes in, Hylissang buffers the hook to get away. Supa getting low as well as Hylissang falls down to about 500 HP and Daglas comes in. Supa flashes. Daglas dashed in, does still have the flash of his own, but the AD carries Ghost Flash burnt for MDK. A winning trade for Vitality.
Re-engage options here, though.
Oh, they just lock up Hylissang and he dies. Vitality! They come out on the top side of plays. They come out with a winning play and then they overstep. It's happened twice now.
Big wave there. Hilly underestimating the re-engage ability of MDK. Vetheo sees a window for a roam and they're going for a dive in top.
Wave arriving. Vetheo pulls it off to the side. Charm not gonna hit as they dive in onto Mryn under the tower. Vetheo tanking it and has to get away. Photon able to dodge away. The hook landing onto Supa. No summoners on him means that he'll be caught out by Carzzy. 2 for 2 so far as Daglas trades off towards the top side. Carzzy's gonna keep Alvaro in the battle. Locks him up, tries to get another absolution stat from him at 24 right now.
So let's take stock of what we just witnessed. We saw solo kill from Fresskowy in mid. We saw MDK turning around a gank in bot lane to be able to find themselves another kill. MDK feeling pretty happy. Yep. They've just got 2 kills. Vitality come back out onto the map. They attempt to dive top with Vetheo, knowing that he has a window to make a play. Doesn't work out, so Mrywn stays alive. Meanwhile, on the bot side of the map, they do punish the flashless summoner spell-less Supa, who ends up losing his life. Now we find ourselves at Dragon, and MDK is looking for a collapse.
Alvaro coming in from the bottom side of the fight. Carzzy, no flash on him, and Alvaro takes him out. Daglas short to follow, tries to flash, dashes the wall. Fresskowy on the chase command dissonance with the movement speed. Needs one more auto from a clockwork wind up or something, but can't quite get there. Dissonance, leap, strike away. Fresskowy unable to close the gap.
Just barely, but he does it. Daglas escapes with his life. They get first Dragon as well. But it's a bit of a bloodbath here. Another kill goes over to MDK. They extend the gold lead ever so slightly. Fresskowy now threatening Vetheo. Does he have the ultimate up yet? It doesn't look like it. But this is the volatility of this matchup. Ideally, the mobility that Ahri has means that it's very easy to have a certain amount of kill threat once you reach a certain point in the lane. But in terms of just straight up trades, it can be very easy for the Orianna to just hit you and you can't really hit it back. Fresskowy has been taking full advantage of that in the early laning phase and has done a great job of playing into Vetheo. We look at the bottom of our screen, so we can see about a 400 gold lead, which is where the kill and the assist is going in their favor. Gold lead in favor of the bot lane as well. Typically, you'd see gold advantage for Hilly, gold advantage for Supa, because Hilly is the primary one farming. But right now, that's mainly just sitting on Supa, thanks to the kill that Alvaro was able to pick up for himself. Overall, a very tense back and forth.
Another stacked wave here. Hylissang will want to clear this out, but Elyoya is just waiting in the wings. Hylissang tries to buffer the dredge line away, but he has no way out of this. Trading back onto Supa, but it costs him his life. Elyoya takes the kill.
Nice gank there from Elyoya. Finds another opportunity. No flash on Hilly. Just as we sing his praises, he finds himself 0-2. MDK finding these windows to get kills. No objective for them to really convert it into. Are they going to keep the pressure up in the bot lane? Or are they going to look to reset? Looks like it's just going to be a reset for now.
Back away. Alvaro moving up towards that mid lane, likely just clearing out any vision that may have materialized from the side of Vitality. Play falling as well means about 1,000 gold lead for MDK early on. And next Drake up in about 3 minutes time. So a while before that, not really too much focus on the top side by either jungler. Haven't seen a grub even sniffed at by them. Deciding they aren't really looking for those small incremental advantages in terms of neutrals. Instead, a fight is what they want, and most of the action is being focused in the bot lane.
Ultimately, I think that MDK have, well, they've got a lot of poke at their disposal, even though Supa's going for the on-hit build. Thanks to the Jayce and the fact that Q still does damage, even without lethality, means that when playing around objectives, MDK are going to have a lot of opportunities to chip away the HP bars of Vitality. I'll hold my breath for a second because I wonder if Elyoya is looking for a gank or if he's just here to cover. He's conscious about the vision that the minions are giving, and he's going to be able to navigate his way through. It looks like his primary goal here is just to cover, allow Mrywn to push this one out. He's cautious of the fact that Dagda might gank and...
Dagda might gank?
Sorry, Daglas.
Anyway, that's the Cyclone. Daglas on his way across. Elyoya still waiting. Second Cyclone. Photon. Elyoya knocked up in the EQ combo. Daglas joins the fray. Gets the smite into the counter-strike, 1-for-1 in the top lane. Daglas going to chase Elyoya out here. The Jarvan should pretty easily escape. We'll take a chunk of his health for it. Hylissang trading with a depth charge. He's going to get locked up, though, and they just don't have the damage to get through Supa in time. The cleanse from Carzzy won't be enough to help him escape. A double for Supa.
MDK's bot lane just coming out on top. Ends up being a 1-for-1 on the top side of the map. This on-hit Varus just melting through the health bar of Hilly. They don't have the damage. You said it in the core, Medic. Very nice stuff from MDK. I can hear Earby through my headset. Yeah. He seems quite excited, as he should be right now. 7 kills to 3. MDK in a great spot. They're going to lose out on the grubs, but Dragon spawns in 55 seconds. You imagine this is an objective that they want to get their hands on. But this Varus is going to be in an amazing spot now for MDK. 1k gold up. Doesn't quite have his completed Blade of the Ruined King. But at the end of the day, he's in a great position. And he's going to be one of the main win conditions for MDK moving forward as we get closer and closer to these big fights, which is what MDK is looking to play for.
There's the risk when you play something like Senna Nautilus in the bottom lane. Your damage, if you're only in a 2v2 and nothing explosive happens, you can kind of survive the lane and just have the Nautilus farm, sometimes find a kill out of nowhere. But until Senna gets the stacks, she's not really getting any gold. It's very difficult to out DPS a conventional AD carry and a support. And we've seen Elyoya spend a lot of time down there, making it even harder for the Vitality bot lane to be in an advantageous position. 2,000 gold lead now for MDK. 5 seconds on the Drake. Elyoya setting up again. This little vision trap spotted with the Oracles. Forces away, but MDK doing a really good job of Alvaro and Elyoya just teaming up, getting this deeper vision in, making sure that Daglas isn't waiting around the corner or anything, and then securing this dragon alongside it.
Nicely done from MDK. Alvaro, a player many of us credited as one of the best, if not the best performing support player from Winter.
Yep.
Been a super impressive player coming onto the scene here in the LEC. MDK definitely want a big bounce back after what was a difficult week 1. Falling to Giant X, I think, was a surprise to many.
Yeah.
But right now they're in a good spot. We need to see them disciplined, controlled as they move forward into these upcoming fights. Vitality have a lot of pick potential. They have that backline threat from the Wukong, who, even though he's a little bit behind, definitely will still be something that this Varus has to be cautious of. Keep my eyes on mid right now. Fresskowy with a nice health lead.
Shockwave, Vetheo just getting chunked out. Vetheo has to burn the Spirit Rush to get away. Can just reset. Ult for ult trade in the end.
But Fresskowy can just stay mid. Look at the health difference. He's going to get himself another plate for sure. He's keeping the pressure on, utilizing the blue trinket. Actually, I think that was just like a mental game there.
Yeah, I think it was like, I see you, I can flash.
And so Vetheo takes a second, hesitates, like, oh, is the jungler here? Could I be in danger? We'll TP back in. But I think that's another plate garnered for Fresskowy. Nicely done.
Not quite, but enough that soon he can... Oh, he won't be able to actually. Yeah, 10 seconds.
Overall, Fresskowy, I'm impressed with how he's playing this mid lane matchup. Very well done. Obviously, we saw the reverse of this, where Caps was just kind of finding these opportunities, but that's because he was working so closely with his jungler, right? Yeah. And this is what happens if you just leave it into the isolated matchup. How dangerous can it be? Now, Vetheo doesn't have ult in Alvaro. Elyoya as well.
Done. The flag and the drag. Vetheo flashes, but he's locked in a cage. Alvaro takes the kill. That synergy between jungle support for MDK coming to the fore once again.
They're just shutting Vetheo down, and Daglas, he has been able to find a kill on the top side of the map, covering for Photon, but aside from that, Elyoya's found multiple ganks on the bot side of the map. He works with Alvaro to find this opportunity in mid after they burnt the ultimate thanks to Fresskowy's great laning. MDK are just outplaying Vitality in mid and bot right now.
They really are. And for Vitality, you wonder, where does the breath of life come from? Daglas is strong. Triforce finished, almost completed his jungle item as well. At least got all 4 treats left off that pet. Carzzy is the one joining up with him. Not often you see an AD carry and jungle roaming around together, but it's because Carzzy wants all of the stacks he can get, and you get a bunch of them from these jungle camps. Hylissang can just farm up in that bottom lane, but has yet to complete his first item.
Can we take a second to appreciate that this Nautilus is getting farmed, and Alvaro has
more golden. That's pretty impressive as Photon just... I mean, Elyoya kind of helped, but most of that was Mrywn.
That was mostly just Mrywn. Yeah, I'm not super sold on how this matchup is supposed to work. Maybe it was just because of how the other game played out, but the fact that Mrywn just basically got a solo kill. Elyoya was primarily there to cover, assist with a potential dive. Impressive stuff. So I extend the outplaying from mid and bot to now top lane.
Okay.
And MDK are just outplaying Vitality across the map, it seems.
Which, coming into Spring, I think would have been expected after week 1. Perhaps a little bit more of a shock to some, but MDK, remember, these guys made finals, right? They were on a fine run of form until we took our 3-week break, and now seem to be returning to it, at least piecemeal, across the course of the last week.
Ultimately, though, they were in a similar position when they played against Giant X, and then they did throw.
Yes.
And this is where we come back to this discipline element, right? That MDK are traditionally a very scrappy team. They love to fight you. They love to force these fights. They like to put pressure on their opponents into coming onto them, and sometimes that can backfire. And so now the evaluation from this point is this game should be done and dusted. You're in a very commanding position. It is your game to lose, so I want to see this level of discipline from them so they can close this game out cleanly.
And Elyoya and Alvaro will find a kill in the mid lane again, or at least a pick, as Hylissang is locked up in the Magnus Storm, but Daglas starts to turn it around, and perhaps they were a little too greedy, Vetheo. If that doesn't prove Vetheo is just the analyst of the year, who what's gonna prove it? Immediately calls it MDK overstep and Vitality
Well,
get
let's
another
look
kill.
back at the replay, because I feel like when I initially saw that play, I think the idea looked good from MDK. So I don't want to criticize them too much if Vitality was just able to find the outplay. Draw my attention now towards top lane. Mrywn looks like he's going for another fight.
Photon only has the Profane Hydra.
I think Elyoya is on his way, though.
He is. TP behind, TP behind. MDK overstepping again. Daglas coming in. There's the Cataclysm burn, and Photon is surviving for a very long time. He's still alive as Elyoya's overstepped. Daglas will take him out. Hylissang's now flanking Mrywn. Oh, Betty! It's all gone pear-shaped for MDK! Oh, my goodness! It's all gone wrong!
That might be an example of what I was just talking about. MDK do have this habit of over-forcing skirmishes and fights, and sometimes it ends up biting them in the backside. Photon showcasing some of the strengths of the Wukong there. The amount of durability he had towards the end meant that he traded back incredibly effectively against Mrywn. Ends up still falling, but Vitality find 2 kills. Supa's still going to secure a tower in the mid lane. Dragon is going to be up. I imagine Vitality's not in a great position to really contest this. Fresskowy is top, has the TP available. Shockwave up as well. Looking at some of the items, I feel like MDK is in a pretty good spot to fight, but you contrast that to the other side. Vetheo in a similar position in terms of itemization. Senna's in a pretty good spot. Oh, I stand corrected, actually. Vitality may feel confident enough to fight this. Looking at Photon right now, has the TP available, no flash, all summoners up for MDK. That could be something worth being concerned about. Interesting, they've actually sent Fresskowy up towards top to match Photon. I think it does make sense when we think that Wukong is inherently an armor-based champion that's very good into these matchups. You then throw all this magic damage at him and he's going to struggle. But naturally, Orianna, not the strongest side lane presence because you don't have that much safety, which is why Elyoya is here. Something that he is very good at, covering for his laners to make sure that they're safe.
Even Alvaro doing the same thing. He'll spot Hylissang and Daglas moving across here, who then back away as Fresskowy retreats from the fray.
We're definitely seeing a lot of synergy between Alvaro and Elyoya to this game, both the positives and to a degree the negatives. Shame we didn't get to see a replay of how that mid lane skirmish broke down, because again, I thought the idea was pretty good there. It seemed to me like that they thought that they had caught Hyli out because they've just been melting him this whole game, but I think that he actually completed the Sunfire cape at this point, and he was just that bit tankier this time round, thanks to the Aftershock as well, and then the Senna ultimate came through to just provide that tankiness. It bought enough time for Vitality to turn the play around in their favor. So something to be cautious about moving forward. The primary frontline will, of course, be Hyli in these upcoming fights, where there's a lot of damage on the remaining members of Vitality.
And importantly for MDK, still large gold leads in all of the carry positions. 2.5k for Mrywn in the top lane, 700 to 800 for Fresskowy, and then Supa as well, almost 2,000 gold ahead. So MDK still in prime position to win this game. They just made a couple of little oopsies.
Just a couple blunders. Now we see the rest of MDK working towards mid. They want to walk this Herald into the tower, get value out of this objective. That's exactly what they're going to do. 50% of the HP knocked off. Sets them up nicely for the Dragon. They have mid-wave control. They have a ban in the bot wave. It's a bit awkward, but ultimately not the end of the world. Vitality should just look to reset for now, concede this objective, and accept, you know what, we're going to continue to scale, ramp up, wait a little longer before we try and force another fight.
It's only second Dragon for MDK. We'll put them 2 away from a Cloud Soul. Bot wave slowly pushing in towards the Mad Lions Koi side of the map. So Fresskowy, after taking Drake, can then go down and deal with that. Photon did push out top, was looking for another wave, now sneaks into the bush, pinging that he's on his way there. Will he look for a catch? What have we got in terms of summoners? Well, we have Hylissang's TP and Vetheo's TP. Is Mrywn going to over-push this wave and be met with a surprise Photon? They're often surprising, those little beams of light. Very quiet, audience. Shh. Daglas is on his way up here. Mryn's going to get caught with a Cataclysm, with a Cyclone. There's the TP in. Mryn flashes away. Daglas still on the chase. Has a flash of his own. Counter strike, flash, leap strike, and it was set up perfectly by Photon and Vitality to catch Mryn unsuspecting.
So we talked about how Vitality's comp great on side lanes, really effective skirmisher, and I was just looking at the scoreboard on my screen, and I was like, this Jax is really strong, like really strong. And we talked about how, when we think about how these fights play out, backline access, right? I think that both Jax and Wukong just very effective at threatening a backline. There's a lot of mobility on the side of Vitality. Wukong, Jax, Ahri, and then also I think the other thing to be concerned about is what they could do is they can actually just have Daglas split pushing, right? Like, we're all no strangers to a Jax sitting in a side lane. Just because he's a jungler doesn't mean that you can't actually send him off to be a side lane threat. And they can actually set up some 1-3-1 situations. Of course, you would then have to leave someone like Carzzy and Hylissang isolated in the mid lane, which could be an easy target to engage on. But as long as they play the side lanes well, Vitality do have ways to stall things out, look for picks, look for punish. And we look at the gold difference, it is continuing to decline as Vitality find picks and ways back into this game.
Interesting moves here by MDK as well, actually sacking the entire bot tower. Mrywn passed straight from base back up to join his team. Chain of Corruption goes wide as Carzzy and Daglas give the respect to the fact that MDK aren't showing that they want to invest in this top side of the map.
Look at what Hilly's doing on the bot side of the map.
He was looking for someone to try and come and step to this tower.
They were getting information because I can imagine that conversation now. Like, is anyone bot? And Hilly's like, I'll check.
And this is a great thing you can do with TP as well, because Hilly can always join a fight on the top side. Usually you wouldn't send your support over here. Vetheo very greedily stepping up here. He knew that his jungle was out of his control. He should have taken the longer route round, but the Cataclysm is dashed away from the charm, flashed away from by Elyoya. TP in from Hylissang as he joins the fight in the middle lane. TP behind now by Photon. Vitality have called their battle. The lines have been drawn as Mryn's the first one to be locked up. Leap strike in with the counter strike, and Mryn will fall. Vitality can loop around here and now look for more if they want. Vetheo no flash, Spirit Rush. He won't be able to join the fight quickly, but Photon, Hylissang, and Daglas are corralling MDK in. The Magnustorm flash forward, the Shockwave. There's one down as Photon falls first, but Daglas with a great counter strike on the back line. Locks up Elyoya. He's falling low. He dashes back. He survives for so long. The sunlit sky. Cloudy skies for MDK. The sun shines bright for Vitality as they win the fight.
Wow. So much kept Daglas alive at the very end there. The heals from Carzzy, the runes as well. Everything working in his favor. You mentioned the Sundered Sky too. Ends up being a 2-for-1 in favor of Vitality. But a very close back and forth fight. Impressively, Fresskowy and Supa kept their flashes. Let's look back at this one. So remember that they get everything out from Vetheo in the jungle initially. Mryn loses his life, and now you think, oh, they have a numbers advantage. In reality, it's a 4 versus 4, because Vetheo doesn't really have much he can offer, and he's too far away from the fight. Great engage from Alvaro to get this Shockwave combo. Hylissang flashes out of the way. And now that backline threat from Daglas. I'm amazed that Fresskowy chose not to flash there, but look at all this healing that comes through from Daglas to keep him alive at death's door. MDK have the safety of the tower to retreat to, otherwise that fight could have been much worse for them. But that goal difference, Medic, is only 1,000 now between the two teams. And I feel like I've cast a curse them. But it comes back to what we talked about, which is that MDK are very good at finding these leads. I think they're very good at playing around the laning phase, but they are prone to skirmish. And sometimes these skirmishes are overforced, they can be too deep, and they put themselves in awkward situations where the re-engages then punish them. And we're seeing an example of it here. Vitality are just kind of patiently waiting. We think about the whole scope of the game. Vitality aren't forcing a lot this game. They're just waiting for MDK to do something, and then they're responding in kind. And now they've brought the kill score 11-9. The goal difference is only about 1,000. The dragon is spawning in 15 seconds, and now a lot more items have been completed on the side of Vitality.
Chain of Corruption on Hylissang. Very tanky target, but already down to half HP. The piercing dark won't heal him up enough as MDK.
Nice punish.
Find there first. Great punish, as you say.
Can they threaten the Baron is my question. Of course, it's a big pick. The front line is gone, but do you want to risk that against a Wukong and a Jax? The jungler is still alive. Ahri is pushing in bot lane, but has the TP available, the Baron being started.
How long will Vitality wait? Vetheo steps into Fog of War, TPs to the mid lane ward. Alvaro being forced away, 4,000 already on the Baron, and Vitality don't have vision. It's going to be gone before they can even step in. 2,000 on it now. Shockwave wide, Daglas dashing forward, and they dived in. The Baron secured by Elyoya, but at what cost? 2 fall immediately. Vetheo chases forward, and Supa will follow suit. Elyoya dashes away, but Vetheo still on the chase. Spirit Rush in, Daglas going in as well. No flash for him. Will Elyoya have the chops to dodge to the side? He escapes the only Baron buff that remains.
4 members dead on the side of MDK. I was concerned for Vitality here because, as you rightly said, Very difficult to access the pit here. Fresskowy zoning away with the ball. The shockwave doesn't connect, and that seems to be the window for Vitality to engage. Everyone sidesteps it. That is the go button. They don't need the Nautilus engage because that choke point acts as an engage for them, and then Vetheo just goes crazy. Looking for chase after chase, thanks to the ultimate resets. The Vitality punish the Baron start, and this was the risk. Yes, MDK take the objective off the board, they secure it for themselves, but you have to question at what cost. Gold advantage gained for Vitality, and the first time this game, they have the lead.
You can say it's a cast to curse, Vetheo, but I just call it damn good predictive skills. You didn't say MDK were going to win the game, you didn't curse them, you said, hey guys, they lose from this position from time to time, and that's what they have begun to do. 1,000 gold lead now for Vitality. They take their second dragon of the game. It's 2 apiece. Look at the damage.
0.
Vetheo.
I already know the chat spamming it.
Look, man, Elyoya got out with Baron, and that is helping bolster up the mid lane minions.
They
will
unlock
take
it.
Another tower, as you say. They unlock it. They can push up towards the top lane, sync the wave with Mrywn.
I like this from MDK, using what little of the Baron they do have to get something back on the map. If this is another tier 2 tower,
good.
Very well done. They're not going to be too upset with that. You can see the Baron power play still negative because, you know, 4 people did still die.
I've seen teams with Baron, they didn't all die, do worse than taking 2 tier 2s.
Exactly. So overall, I think MDK can be pretty happy with that. Dragons are 2-2 apiece. Ultimately, what this does is we puts us on a very even footing. You look across the itemization, you can see 3 items done for Supa. Very close to the death cap for Fresskowy, and I imagine this will be the next big point of contention. Fresskowy saying, guys, I need death cap. Let us wait. Currently, he's sitting at about 100 gold, so he still needs another 1,000.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
So ultimately, this will now be a farming period, and how these fights are executed is going to be crucial. What we've seen is that the second that one person dies on the side of MDK, they just get run down by Vitality. They have so many consistent damage threats when you think about it. Jax just keeps hitting down onto the opposition. He's always going to be this backline threat. Wukong creating so much chaos thanks to his ultimate. He's now ticked over to level 16. Looks like he's working towards the GA next as well. And so MDK, I think they're very reliant on like doing as much AoE damage. They have a big wombo combo opportunity. If they can kill that initial target, it could be massive for them when it comes to winning out the fight.
The problem for them, though, is Carzzy's scaling. He's been silent most of this game. 2-2 and 9, 139
he's about
stacks
to
right
take over
now.
to 140 right now.
Jat often talks about 140 being the break point for a Senna. I think it's more situational than that at times, but 140 is so powerful for you.
It's a great point, Medic. I mean, he's also working towards that third item. That goal difference between the AD carries obviously deceptive. Items are really what you need to keep your eyes on, and you can see that they are very close to the slight lead for Supa.
And as much as it can seem like Carzzy only has 2.5 items, Bloodsong is essentially another item for him. That Sheen proc you get out of it just gives you so much extra damage in fights like this. So Carzzy is in a very strong position right now, even though he has been one of the quieter members of Vitality, the story mostly about Daglas, but even if MDK kill Daglas, Carzzy's still in a position to carry. On the other side though, Supa in the same position. Terminus, Blade of the Ruin King, Ginsu's complete. Fresskowy almost with that Rabadon's, or just about to buy it. I have to think he's on around 1,000 gold right now. He resets, and there it is, completes it. The next fight could be the last for this game. Baron up in a minute and a half, or minute 50. The same for the Cloud Drake, but I don't think anyone's eyes are going to be going over to our perhaps feathered friend in the bottom lane.
You imagine.
Do you think dragons were feathered like dinosaurs?
That's exactly what I was just thinking myself. They are.
That's why I said feathered, and then I realized we actually have an example of one on the map. But maybe Riot's paleontologists have incorrectly reconstructed it, because that's what happened with dragons.
I completely agree with you, Medic.
Yeah.
I do believe that the Cloud Dragon should have feathers. If a Velociraptor is believed to have feathers, why can't a Cloud Dragon?
Exactly. What's really interesting is we know what dinosaurs sound like, but no one's ever heard a dinosaur. People just looked at like some bones and said, yeah, it sounds like, you know?
It's a great point. Often people do ask, what does a giraffe noise make?
A giraffe noise.
Giraffe, yeah.
I think we've heard those Vetheo. They
False.
exist.
No, truth is that no one's ever.
I forgot about this. Okay, back to the game. You guys asked Vetheo on Twitter, do giraffes exist? It was a...
I'm glad we brought the topic up. Yeah. Well, 50 seconds until that Cloud Dragon does in fact spawn. That bot tower should be secured by Photon. Getting a little bit more gold for him at level 17. We think about how his laning phase went, but now I feel like he is a very real threat.
It's a really interesting exchange of control on the map right now. Vitality invested 3 control wards on this dragon side of the map in towards the red buff of MDK, whereas MDK used that opportunity just to step into this blue side, and I'm surprised that Vitality wanted all of that time down towards the bottom side. They did get the tier 2 out of it, so I can see what their objective was, but now you have to play through mid and worry about the fog of war in your own jungle, which Hylissang walks right into. He looks for the damage onto Elyoya, depth charge going onto him as well, TP in as MDK look to continue this fight. Elyoya low though, Alvaro goes in with a Magnet Storm, locks up Daglas, the shockwave to follow, but the Dawning Shadow out of Carzzy heals up Daglas, shields him up, and Vetheo dashes in. Daglas goes legendary, the Cataclysm not catching Vetheo enough, but double for Daglas, 1 for Photon to boot, and Hylissang is looking for this 1v2, but I'm afraid Hylissang, you had some shining moments. This is Winter Hylissang as he tries to trade in, distracts Supa and Alvaro for long enough for Vitality to push through mid.
MDK just don't have the damage. The threats are just too many and too real on the side of Vitality. Vetheo was basically shut out of the fight right from the start, but it didn't matter. Daglas and Photon were just putting on a clinic on the backline, and you look at Carzzy's HP untouched. His positioning in the fight was flawless. There was 0 threats onto the backline, and this Jarvan, very squishy. The engage comes onto him initially, and look at how quickly he's forced out of the fight. He does what he can. Credit to Elyoya still finding an angle. I love this engage from Alvaro though. Immediately onto the backline, the charm connects onto the TP, but look at this shockwave, massive damage done. But then look at this Wukong ultimate, devastating the backline. Mrywn gets shut down. The Varus barely gets to do anything before he's forced away from the fight. It ends up being a double for Daglas and a 9-0-6 Jax performance for the Vitality jungler.
And although I teased Hylissang about losing in the 1v2, he was the reason Supa didn't get into that fight. He just distracted Supa the whole time, forced him out towards the top side, and as soon as Fresskowy dies, where you don't have any damage left for MDK, Vitality pushed through mid, took the tier 3 there, now take tier 2 in the top lane. They got the Baron, they have that for 2.5 minutes more. The Dragon secured by MDK as some sort of small consolation prize, but it's still not sold for them.
I mean, and it's a frustrating loss for MDK because it's the exact same mistakes that we saw against Giant last week. That those few moments where there's a lack of discipline, where they overforce a few plays, and Vitality is just so quick to punish them for it that it just bought them enough time to reach a point where they now just outscale. Still, good damage from Mrywn, puts him in a great spot, forces Carzzy back.
Carzzy has 176 stacks, Vetheo.
That's many
That
stacks.
Quite a few, 77 now.
If you were to put that in a Jenga game, that would be too many to play the game effectively.
Not if you're tall.
That's true.
How big do you think a Jenga, like 1 centimeter? That's like an average human height, actually.
Perhaps.
You
The
know?
question is MDK tall enough to handle their weight of those stacks?
Okay, do you want a better segue than that?
I love that
The question
segue.
is, will the Jenga tower of MDK's game fall apart or fall down?
My producer laughed at my joke.
No, he laughed at my joke. Depp is just playing both sides. He's always coming out on top. MDK playing 2 sides of the same coin in this game as well.
Another great transition.
Thank you. We saw the heads earlier on. Now, it seems like a bit of tails for them as Vitality continue to scale up. A 6,000 gold lead for them. They've broken the tier 3 in the mid lane, yet to take the inhibitor. A minute left on this Baron buff. Looks like it's going to be a 1-3-1 split with Vetheo in the top lane. Photon moving his way down towards bottom, but decides against it as the wave a little bit too far pushed up for him. He will go down that, got the Scryer's Bloom, so now he's going to catch it. But because he's showing on vision and catching this wave down towards the bottom side, Vetheo now can't stay up pushing that lane in the top side because it would be very easy for MDK to collapse on him. So he backs out of vision. Photon's going to show. Alvaro stepping a little bit too far forward. Vetheo connects with his team in the mid lane, joining up with them safely to make sure they have a strong enough force to repel any advance from MDK.
The waves are a bit awkward right now. I don't think the Vitality is going to get much more off the back of this Baron. Seems like resets are coming through, and got to be careful here though. Saw Carzzy backing, thought he was in a bit of danger. Looks like he should be able to get away to safety. This is the part of the game where Vitality basically just suffocates MDK, all of their resources. Jungler feels very sad because they literally don't get to farm anything. The laners are taking every scrap that they can get to kind of supply those last few items. You can see the Jack show finished for Supa.
There's one other thing you should really look at, Betty, and that's the gold difference between the junglers.
Yeah, it's 5k.
It's pretty big.
Somewhat, yeah.
It's a sizable chunk of change. Photon also now 2,000 gold ahead.
If we were to put it in Jenga blocks.
How many games of Jenga could you buy for 5,000?
Many, I
Wood's
would
really
imagine.
expensive at the moment.
True. I mean, It's kind of crazy that MDK find themselves in a very similar position. Their early game continues to be strong. And you'd think that like they just need to find the right fight, but it comes back to this idea of how easily can MDK deal the damage. And even if they do deal the damage, I feel like in the last fight we saw that it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
They got like a perfect shockwave onto Vetheo, and he still has the mobility to get away. And then the moment that he's used that shockwave, what else does he have, right? You've just got this Jax that's diving on top of your head, and even if you create space between him, there's a Wukong there as well. And meanwhile, Hylissang, as even though he finds himself at 5 deaths, you highlighted it perfectly. In the last fight, he just stood there menacingly, making life difficult for Supa. And even if he has to spend everything killing Hilly's done his job.
Yep.
You know, he's now got 3 items. The Frozen Heart's just going to make it even harder for Supa. And all he needs to do is, of the 3 carries, he just has to keep one of them busy.
Yep, and he's doing that incredibly well. Full build as well for Vetheo. The Magi's at 15 stacks, got himself a fancy hat alongside it.
He's straight up by the death cap. Like,
yeah, he did. I think he may have had a rod for like a little bit, but the death cap...
No, he just straight up bought a death cap. He just said, you know what, I've got the loose
balling,
change.
Man.
Yeah.
Bills on bills on bills, stacks on stacks. He's playing Jenga, buddy. Crypt Bloom finish for Fresskowy as well, which does give you that bit of magic penetration, but not as powerful as a Void Stuff. Will help you out in an extended team fight, though, with that little bit of extra healing. MDK playing through mid, and then can move this pressure towards that Baron. That's up in 57 seconds. Carzzy trying to put the damage down. Look at the range he has now. Cresting up towards that 200 stack mark. Photon spotted. Mrywn shows that he spotted him, keeps him at bay. Hilly lands the hook on Alvaro, not the target you really want. Last Embrace, Dawning Shadow coming out, but Alvaro's already so low. Daglas, chain of crushing going right. Alvaro trying to dash in. The
Nice
shockwave on Carzzy. Elyoya takes him out, and now it's all on Vetheo and Daglas to clean up the fight. And they got hands for days, baby. Fresskowy down. Photon takes 4. He's gonna look for 5. Hilly steals it. You absolute troll, Hylissang. To the end, laughing his way to the bank. Vitality clean up the fight, and MDK are left routed by Vitality.
They kill Carzzy, but the cost was their whole team. Vitality with an impressive comeback here on day 1 of week 2.
And continue their fine run of form as well. We wondered if week 1 was a fluke. It seems like Vitality are here to stay.
Big smile on the face of Carzzy. He's going to be happy with that one. 908 Jax performance from Daglas. We wanted to see him on a carry, and he had an impressive game.
I mean, just look at Hilly, though. He got 1 kill that whole game, and it was to steal a penta. What? Oh, typical Hilly things. Photon walks away from him, refuses to interact with his support after that. Vote for your key player of the game at LEC on X. Photon, Daglas, or Carzzy are your options. I think... like Daglas' early game obviously was gifted a kill level 1 as Fresskowy stepped a little bit too far. Was able to get ahead with that, but Elyoya did a really good job of shutting him down. And then later fights, but Daglas did take over them quite a lot. Carzzy
I mean, it was really the Photon Daglas show. I'm going to be honest with you. These two together were just, in that final fight, they were just making everyone's life miserable if you were on the MDK roster. Impressive stuff from them. But we need to go to a quick break. We'll be back with our final game of the day right after this.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Laure, did you steal my Kit Kat?